Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bad Blind Moms. We're just two moms trying our best and doing it all wrong. I am Stacy Cervenka from Lincoln, Nebraska.
And I'm Bridgit and Pollpeter from Urbandale, Iowa. And welcome, guys, back to another Bad Blind Moms episode. Today, we have a wonderful panel of three dads. We have Kuell from Connecticut. Chris is the editor-in-chief for Breath and Shadow magazine, and he has two kids who are grown, so he can give us a lot of advice here. We have Greg DeWall, who is Stacy's wonderful husband. Greg is the center supervisor at the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired Training Center. And we have my wonderful husband, Ross Pollpeter, here with us. Ross is a vocational rehabilitation teacher at the Iowa Department for the Blind.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it so much. And, you know, as we approach Father's Day, Bridgit and I were talking about how so many people basically use parenthood as almost a synonym for motherhood sometimes. And how when we join parents groups or when we talk about blind parenthood, so often the conversation is focused on moms. And that can be for a lot of reasons, but we really wanted to draw some attention to the excellent blind dads that are out there, and also get their opinion on a variety of topics. So I guess the first thing we'd like to talk to you guys about is that society often assumes that fathers take a secondary role in the raising of their children. Often women are asked if their husbands help out or if they babysit the kids sometimes. I know for me, I remember when I went back to work after Leo, people would ask, oh, is Greg a good dad? Does he help out? And I asked the person who said that to me, would you ask if I help out? You know, like, so how do you guys feel about kind of that, I guess, that perception that society has about dads in general, not even taking into consideration blindness?
This is Greg, of course, and you know, in recent years, I'm glad to see that. I don't know if it's a generational thing or you know, kind of an educational thing, but I'm glad in recent years to see that not only are more dads being more involved. I of course had a great example of a father. In my mind, regardless, blind or not, I just kind of think if I could be half the dad my dad was, I'll be a successful father. And you know, going into our generation, knowing how many fathers are involved, not only with you know shuttling and being that family taxi or you know preparing meals, changing diapers, there does seem to be more of it. Not only is there more of it happening, I'm glad to see that slowly society seems to be recognizing it as well, because I do think the recognition of fathers being more involved is a more recent thing.
Chris or Ross, do you have any thoughts?
So I'm Chris, I'll just jump in here. I would say that any marriage or any family from my perspective is better when it's based on equality. And of course there's give and take, and sometimes one person has to pick up more of the load than the other person, but it's hard for me to imagine having a happy family without equality. And you know, when I lost my sight and I became a stay-at-home dad, it was you know, our role shifted significantly, but it's always a balance of everything that needs to get done, and we work together to get it done. And I just can't imagine any other way.
You know, I remember when Leo first started swimming lessons at the YMCA. This was when we lived in Sacramento, California. And I remember there was one whole session where it was dads, the whole class. It was a parent-infant swim class. And all the parents in the water were dads. And I thought, you know, that's so cool. But what's interesting is that had they all been moms, I probably wouldn't have even noticed or thought anything of it. But because they were all dads, like even in my mind, I was like, oh, you know, and so, I mean, I think so many of us were conditioned to sort of believe that like moms take their kids to activities, moms do all these things. And, you know, I mean, and dads want that. Like, would you guys not agree? I mean, dads, you guys had children and chose to have children for a reason. You want relationships with those children and you want to, you know, share in their life.
I think equality is the right word, and equality looks different, you know, for each family, each couple, and you know what I feel you and I are good at, Stacy, is working to our strengths. You know, and sometimes that's what equality is, and for us, you know, we have some equality because we work to our strengths.
This is Ross. I agree with Greg that, you know, as a marriage, it's a partnership. And, you know, there are things that Bridget's better at and there are things I'm better at. And we work together as a team to make, you know, being parents a success and you know, this and managing this household. And, you know, yeah, I'm really good dad, and I should get prizes for changing diapers from time to time. But and you know, and when Bridget babysits my kids while I'm at work, it's just, you know, it's nice when I come home and, you know, things have been taken care of and I could just kind of be with the kids for a while. But no, the way that I truly feel about it though is that, yeah, I go off to work and but I get to be with adults. I get to do something I love doing. And so sometimes when I go to work, doesn't feel like I've been at a job. It feels like I've been doing something I really loved. So I come home and I let Bridget have her time, you know, to do her thing. And I take over.
To reclaim my sanity.
I claiming my time. But you know, I don't feel like I'm helping out my partner. You know, she's been with him all day. It's my turn.
Absolutely. And while Bridget's getting ready with the next question, I want to tell all our viewers, I know you're all used to seeing lovely backgrounds from people on Zoom now, and you're probably thinking that Greg's background is fake. It's actually not. He's broadcasting live from our patio. So all that lovely greenery and trees you see is actually real, but it's funny.
Wait until you hear the drag races down O Street.
Yeah, that's true. It's gonna get more and more dark in Greg's background. But anyway, so Bridget.
Okay, fellas. So in your opinion, what are some common misconceptions society has about being a blind dad?
I would say that society's misconceptions are more about blindness than specifically a blind dad. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I would say. It's the same, low expectations. People see you walking with your kid and they think the kid's guiding you. They think the kid's leading you across the street, and society has misconceptions. And I'd like to think when my kids were growing up, like we live about a half a mile from the elementary school. So I used to walk them to school and pick them up. And by people seeing me walking by myself to get the kids and walking with the kids and chatting with them, you know, hopefully I set a good example for some people. But, you know, societal misconceptions, that's a huge hurdle for all of us.
Yeah.
I don't think whether you're a dad or a mom has any major difference.
Greg or Ross, how do you guys feel? Do you feel that society has any misconceptions around
I think it's honestly,
blind dads?
This Ross said, so honestly, I feel like probably the more common, you know, the common misperception or misconception, whatever, is that when I say I have children, they automatically assume I live with a sighted spouse. And they're like, oh, okay, well, she must be taking care of the kids. You know, so it'd probably be the same thing as a blind mother, though, too. Mm-hmm. You know, assuming that you have a sighted husband or sighted partner of some type. So that's usually what but they actually do start to like, oh, you must not. You know, I often feel like people don't think I actually take care of my kids because I'm blind.
Greg, any thoughts?
Yeah, that kind of joining the two comments together, I feel not only being a dad, but the blindness kind of amplifies the misconception a little bit. And that, it's probably assumed that because I'm a dad, I might do less, or I might contribute to time and, the care of the children a little less. And then because I am blind, well, that just magnifies it even more. And I probably do less than they thought I did in the beginning. And I think of one example. When Leo was very young, we had him in this kinder music class that is time we will never, ever get back.
If you live in Sacramento, don't do Sacramento kinder music. Woo. Okay. Money and time that as Greg said, you will never get back. Hi, kinder music.
But if you want to sponsor us.
That's right.
So as I was walking out of kinder music, now please, I say this to paint you a picture. I was wearing designer jeans, a designer polo shirt, nice sneakers, a belt, and I was holding Leah. And a gentleman walks up and says, "Sir, can I give you money?" And I seriously wanted to laugh and say, I'm pretty sure I'm doing better than you are, but no, thank you. And to me, that was...
And I was like, take the money, take the money.
Right.
To me, that was that misconception of not only am I a dad, but I'm a blind dad. And he's not looking at the picture, he's looking at the fact that I'm a blind dad, and it's assumed that I need a handout to take care of my son.
Another thing I remember with Greg is that, so up until recently, I used to fly to Washington, D.C. every other week. And so I would work 1 week from home and then 1 week from D.C. And it always used to drive me nuts when people would ask me, so who watches your kids when you're gone? And it was like, I'm married, right? Like, that they have another parent. And I remember saying this to someone, and I was like, oh, it drives me nuts that everyone is always like, who's watching your kids? As if like they don't have a dad. And she's like, well, as a way of explaining, well, it's probably because they don't know if that he's blind and that he can watch them. And I was like, great. So it's ableism, not sexism. Like,
right.
Two sides of the same coin. Like, I don't feel any better,
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen when Bridget was doing her Master in Fine Arts, and she'd go off for these week-long residencies.
2 weeks. Yeah.
What? 2 weeks?
They were like 10 days.
Oh, okay.
Okay, whatever.
10 days. And
felt like 2 weeks to your loving husband.
Yeah, 10.5 days, to be exact.
It was actually an afternoon.
Oh, thank you. So,
yes.
But even some family will be like, "Oh, is Ross going to be okay with the kids?" I'm like, "What?" I'm
like, he's the father.
They'll survive.
Yeah.
We'll still have 2 kids when she's back. They'll be okay. And that always bothered me, because I'm like, that says a lot about what you think about my parenting skills or my abilities.
And the person who asked that was me. I'm just kidding.
If you want to own it, go ahead, Stacy. That's fine. I
doubt your skills and abilities.
Right now, that really hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I was like, what are you going to do, Ross, with Bridget being gone?
Right.
Stacy, you're the worst.
That's why I'm on this show.
That's right.
Exactly. That's why we're bad blind moms.
Like our tagline, we're the worst.
Blind moms.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we're bad blind moms. Bridget's the bad blind mom, and I'm the worst blind mom. Okay. All right. Well, so to the three of you guys, what hobbies have you guys enjoyed sharing with your kids?
Enjoyed, or just for sharing?
What hobbies are you sharing with your children?
I love that the kids wanna come in the wood shop with me. Leo and I have kind of set some ground rules. Josie has recently been coming in there with me, and they like just getting in the middle of things right now. Leo tries really, really hard to make and glue things together, and then I try really, really hard to scrape the glue off the workbench that he's spilled everywhere. And break his little projects up. But I love that he's in there trying, creating. Leo has that engineering kind of mind, so I grant him access to the shop. And I love being in there with him, teaching him things, how to measure, how to cut. The only power tool I've introduced him to so far is the drill press. So he could run that by himself after I set it up for him. And then fishing as well. Fishing has been a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, the last time we went out was the first time that Leo had casted out and reeled in a fish all by himself. So
With
that
no
was
assistance.
pretty cool to have him do and not have to untie a knot or get a snag out or retile it. So anyway, it's been fun as they get more mature and introducing them to more of the things that I enjoy doing, the hobbies that I have.
And I'll say this, when I was at ice skating a few weeks ago, Greg was in the shop with our 3-year-old daughter, and I get texted a picture of my 3-year-old daughter using a saw and a miter box. And I was like, this is so cool. And I was showing everybody at the rink, and they were all like, I was like, look, isn't this so cute? And they were like, that's scary. So I was like, yes, my totally blind husband teaching my 3-year-old daughter to use a saw. That's just what happens at my house, you know? Ross?
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, not to interrupt Chris if he was going to chime in, but for me, I always like I'm kind of a giant kid. And so I like to get down and play with him. I still like, I love their Magnetiles and the Thomas train tracks. I don't get their style of play because I think it's wrong. I think they should do it the way I do it. But I think that I enjoy, getting down in there with them and Legos and Magnetiles and Thomas train tracks and doing puzzles with them. And I just always do enjoy that with them.
Well, I'll jump in here. So I have adult children. So I've had drinks with my children, which is an interesting hobby. But I think Ross, when they were young, I tried to just do whatever they wanted to do, with the one exception of being, so I lost my sight at 35. And when I was sighted, I used to love playing golf. And I went blind and always had a dream that my son would be a golfer. And so I built this, I took a piece of carpet and I installed a tee and I drilled a hole in a golf ball and I put a long, flexible, like rubber band type material that we got from Joann's Fabric to a golf ball. And I told my son to, get up there and hit the ball, which he did very well. And of course it flew out. And then because of the rubber band aspect of the attachment, it flew right back at us. So that was a very short-lived project, but we used to, making up games. I mean, like, again, with my son, we just set up his Army figures and bowl them over with a tennis ball or whatever. And I love that stuff. And I miss that kind of stuff. Now that they're older, just doing whatever they like to do. And, I have a daughter, and, when she was about 7 years old, she asked if she could cut my hair. And I'm like, hey, it'll grow back. And I let her cut my hair. And, then we had to go to a hairdresser because it was and I let her put makeup on me and do whatever, just have fun with the kids doing whatever they like to do.
Gregory, that's coming.
Right.
I know.
Coming, Gregory.
I know. And I will be that dad, I will.
Hey, yeah. He does her hair every morning. He does my baby girl's hair. But, sometimes she wants 4 pigtails. Then that's what's her choice. So she goes to preschool with 4 pigtails.
Mm-hmm. You got to let them be them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well, this kind of lends it.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
Well, I was just listening to the other gentleman talk about, doing what they like to do. And of course, I enjoy the Lincoln Logs and the train tracks as well. I do have a harder time with the Magnetiles. I don't enjoy those as much as I thought I would when Leo first got them. But the Lincoln Logs, the Magformers. But train tracks, building cool car ramps, but For me, talking about doing what the kids like to do, I think part of it is I might be lucky in that way that the kids love doing what I love doing. And so I'm like, hell yeah, let's take advantage of this.
Right. Yeah, there was a time like my son, when he and his friends were like 12, Nick came to me and he's like, Dad, can we build a ramp? And I'm like, well, of course you can build a ramp, and I've got tools and I can help, and it was fun, and one kid wiped out, and but fortunately, we didn't get any grief from that parent. I've gotten grief from other parents at other times for letting the kids play rough.
Stacy's gotten grief from parents for naming their kid Josephine because it had too many letters.
Oh, there was someone at the grocery store who was like, "Aren't you afraid he's not going to learn to spell it?" And I was like,
"Wow, talk about low expectations."
No, I'm not worried. Well, and it's funny because it's 9 letters. So is Catherine. So is Elizabeth. So is Stephanie. Like, what are you talking about? And actually, she's 3, and she's known how to spell her name for like almost a year. Oh, anyway.
So this next question really lends itself to the previous one, but what techniques have you guys found as blind dads to participate in your kids' athletics and other activities?
All right, I'll jump in on this one. One of my concerns when my kids were young was how do I play sports with them? And the answer is with good spirit and quite unsuccessfully, but that's all right. An easy start is like a soccer ball with a bell in it, which I used to kick around with my kids in the backyard, and that was all well and good. Then my son started to play, he played t-ball, and then when it got to baseball, I wanted to work with him. I'm a dad, so I would go in the backyard with him and pitch underhand to him, which worked very good because every time he hit the ball, my daughter would go and get it and bring it back, and we had a nice system going. But I remember twice he drilled a line drive right back at me, and I'm totally blind, so it like just hit me in the chest, once hit me in the face. So we're like, okay, you're gonna have to play with the other kids now. And I had a similar event with football because he wanted to learn how to throw a football. So, we got a football, and I had this idea that I would hold up a beach towel. I'd turn sideways and hold up a beach towel and have him throw the ball into the towel. And I could catch it that way, which he threw quite well several times, and then he threw a spiral like right into my nose, and the blood's gushing out of my face, going down my nose, and that was the last time we really threw football together. So
I congratulate you though on your creativity. That's a cool idea.
Yes.
Well, you got to be creative. We're blind people. Yeah, you have to be creative. You have to figure out ways to do things.
There's problem solving.
So those are my sports stories. The other one I could tell you is judo. I have a blind friend. She's a female, and her kids like judo, and I thought it was a good sport for the kids, and so we took judo for a while. And when my son was 12, he asked if he could demonstrate a chokehold on me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And like my 12-year-old son like choked me out. So I was like, okay, enough of the judo.
My husband is actually a Paralympic bronze medalist in judo, and so you can tell him about how you tried getting Leo in judo.
Well, I'll come back to that because I actually want to touch on the him taking line drives right back up the middle off the chest and off the face. When Leo was about 3 years old, I think is when I started introducing him to baseball, and all he wanted to do was hit. And I wanted to get him a tee, but he didn't want to hit off a tee because the San Francisco Giants and Buster Posey don't hit off a tee. And I couldn't convince him that that's actually what they do at practice. Anyway, so I started pitching to him, and he'd bounce him off my shins, he'd bounce him off my knee, off my chest. But then actually what got me to stop doing that was when I realized my son hits everything, and I don't throw strikes. So
Yeah.
I'm really kind of worried that we're developing some really bad habits here. The hand-eye coordination is there. I think I'm going to put hitting to the side for a moment. But going back to your cow idea and the football, I think that's awesome. One idea that I've thought about for baseball, for Leo, just to get the habit of pointing your toes, step, throw, is taking like a fishing net or a pool net and burying it in the ground upside down so he could just throw it into the net. I'll get him like a dozen baseballs and he can just practice the throwing motion. It's off the ground. I could adjust it to be chest level, and he can practice that repetition. What we're doing now for baseball, of course, he is on a baseball team, so we take him to practice once a week.
Twice a week now.
And Sundays, starting tomorrow, is his first game, so now it will be twice a week. But what we're doing now is we have a really nice brick wall on the back of the shop that has no windows on it. So I tell Leo to go back there, and he does this with soccer also, is he just throws the ball against the wall. And then if it gets past him, then I will field it and I'll throw it against the wall and try to make it a little more challenging off the rebound for him to get to, so he could work on. Because the thing I've had to work on with Leo with both football and baseball is the ball's not going to come directly to you. You have to go to the ball. So just, as you know, the fundamentals of a sport, even as a blind dad, you can be creative and come up with ways to work on those fundamentals. And then I try to let the coach take care of the rest. I don't get in the way of the coach, but at home, we come up with creative ways to work on the fundamentals.
Right.
Chris, I know Grace and Nick were, very involved in like performing arts. Like, was there any like ways that maybe you participated differently or experienced that differently as a blind parent?
Both my kids were actors, and my son, it's great because my son is actually a high school English teacher now, and he just worked with the high school that he works at for the first time with the theater department. They put on Something's Rotten, which was fantastic to see him doing that again. It's hard as a blind parent. I would say one of the hardest things for me was when they were on stage, especially, like my son had a lead when he was a senior. They did Annie Get Your Gun, and he was Frank Butler. And my daughter used to be the first chair in the violins in the orchestra. And not to be able to see them was a little bit heartbreaking. But at the same time, I enjoyed going to all the performances, and because I pay attention. Of course, I could pick out all the various kids, and I even knew the kids in the pit. I knew who played the clarinet and who played the oboe and who played the trumpet, and to pay attention to all the various young people and their roles, brought me great joy at that time. But as for participating, no, mostly I put earplugs in when my son would sing nonstop over and 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 over again. He liked to practice, so he was like,
practice makes perfect.
All right, guys. So moving right along, what has been your favorite part of being a dad?
I would say the whole package, quite honestly, which is interesting for me. So when I was in my 20s, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I never really wanted to have kids. But a friend of mine said, like, you'd be a great dad. You really should have kids. And of course, biological clock happens, and we had kids, and they have bringing me so much joy, and still do all the time. It's like the best thing I did in my life. So as I think back, I have so many fond memories of, playing with them and doing projects with them and just hanging around, so.
Damn it, Chris, you stole my line. Because I was going to say, of all the crap I've done with my life, my kids are the best things I've done with my life too. When those damn little rats were born, they, like, I cried both times, big time, like
Right.
a big baby. And Bridget's sitting there just smiling, laughing, and she's, you know, she's been gutted, during the C-section, and I'm,
Oh yeah.
you know, and I'm
She's on the
sitting there
happy medicine. Yours was
yeah,
real.
you know, and I'm gutted. You know, I'm gutted with tears, just bawling my eyes out because it was just so awesome. And
I
I'm
think
so
of it
proud of
as the Grinch. When the Grinch's heart grew 10 times, that's how I felt holding my kids for the first time. It's like I just couldn't believe like the love in my heart that you could have that much.
Well, now he just stole my line, Ross, because I don't know that I would have called it the Grinch, but that's kind of the angle that I was going to come from. It's I don't know if it's growth, if it's maturing to another level, if it's a sense of responsibility. But from the moment that Stacy was pregnant with Leo and the moment Leo was born, there was just this immediate change in it. And it is that unconditional love that gets talked about between a parent and a child. And you know, I hear you say the total package, and both of you reference that, and I agree, it is the total package, but that feeling on the inside is just overall sense of love and responsibility to these little beings that do bring you so much joy. You know, I remember coming home when Leo was really, really young, and Stacy would meet me at the door with Leo, and yes, I was eager to give Stacy a break, but at the same time, Leo would be lunging for me out of her hands, and just that sensation of this little man is eager to see me. Josephine is the same way. When we wake up in the morning, usually I'm the first one awake in the morning, and while I'm drinking my coffee, both kids will still come up and join me in the recliner and sit there with me on both sides. And you know, just that appreciation, that's kind of my validation for being a father, I feel, is they want to be with me. They wake up and they look forward to, they see me and they want to climb in that recliner with me and cuddle with me while I drink my coffee. And it's like, okay, I'm doing something right if this is what my kids want at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then about 30 seconds later, they ask if they could change the channel, and the moment's over. But, but I love those first 30 seconds.
I think there was a really fun moment for me sometime recently. I can't remember how long ago, but I was sitting and us three boys were watching a movie. Now, it's killing me that I cannot remember what movie it was, but the three of us were watching a movie. I think it was something I liked as a kid. Something that was one of my favorite movies, although now I can't seem to remember it. But, and I had each, like Greg said, like I had a boy on each leg. We're all sitting together watching a movie that I liked as a kid. It was just a really nice moment. You know what movie I'm thinking of?
Yeah, when Leo comes home and asks when does the Giants game start. They're like, sweet, okay, this is cool. I didn't even have to ask, he did.
Bridget, you want to go with number 6?
Yes, sorry, hold on. Shh, gotta be quiet, okay?
We have an intruder.
We have a visitor. So you guys have each kind of addressed a little of this a little bit, right? Okay. But what do you think has been kind of a challenge for you as a blind parent?
Getting our kids to bed?
Yeah, no, actually, there you go. winner on that one. I think for me, taking my kids to unfamiliar environments would probably be the challenge. And one way that I found that works for me in being able to eliminate kind of maybe the intimidation of going or the concern of going to a new environment is I will play with the kids on the equipment or on the playground, or at Chuck E. Cheese I might go through the tunnel one time, because then I feel more comfortable about what my kids are doing, where they're at. Hotels, I might walk through the hotel with the kid. Like, I do the exploring with the kids as they're getting to know the place. And then I feel more secure because I know what the kids are getting involved with, if they run off to my left, or if they, Great Wolf Lodge, for example, an all-inclusive kind of.
It's not all-inclusive, you have to pay for it.
Well, right. But it's a hotel with a water park connected to it. So I was going to say an all-inclusive water park. But anyway, playing on the equipment with the kids. And then when they ask to go somewhere or play on something, I'm more secure and comfortable because I've been on it. I know what they're doing, where they're at. I would say that going new places and just the fear of the unknown, so to speak.
I would say that transportation is, just like any blind person, is always an issue. And when the kids were younger and needed to go to judo or to baseball, and later on as they're teenagers and they want to go to their friends' houses and they want to go to the movies and they want to go out for pizza, transportation is an issue. And for me personally, like when the kids were young, I would try and network with other parents to basically bum rides, which doesn't come naturally for me. And the truth is, all the parents I asked were very absolutely no problem. We'll come by and pick you up, So, but overcoming that hurdle of asking was challenging for me. And then secondly, I would say, and I have one parent in mind there. My son used to have a friend, Michael, that he would invite over, and Michael's mother was not happy that I was blind. She was one of those people, she called my wife one time after Michael had been here playing and said that he was all bruised and, how could I possibly watch the kids? And, the kid was trying to learn how to ride a pogo stick and he fell a couple times and, hey, that's what happens. So that was an unpleasant experience dealing with her. But generally speaking, I mean, when my kids were young and they're in elementary school, other kids would come to the house and their parents obviously they knew me as the blind guy, and nobody had any reservations. There was very few.
I'll tell you, I felt like I knew I'd made it. It was like 2 weeks ago when Leo's best friend went with us to the kids museum, because not only did they trust him, I mean, they've been trusting us to have him over for a long time, but they trusted me to take him somewhere in an Uber. And a lot of parents get sketched out about Uber, like, oh, you don't know the driver, it's dangerous. But she never even asked how we were going to get there. She was just like, oh yeah, sure, and like, and I thought that was a different level. Like, oh, you actually trust me to take him somewhere. Like, that's awesome.
Right.
So Chris and Greg and Ross, if you could give one piece of advice to blind guys who are, who would like to be dads one day, or who are considering fatherhood, or maybe their significant other is pregnant and they are anticipating becoming fathers, or they're currently fathers, what one piece of advice would you give to current and prospective blind dads?
I mean, honestly, the key thing for being a parent, whether you're blind or not, is, can you take care of yourself? Can you be responsible for somebody more than, to consider somebody else more than you consider yourself? Or take into consideration somebody else more than you do yourself. I don't know if I said that right or the grammar was perfect there, but can you do everything you can to be there for that person? And honestly, I don't often think of myself as a blind parent. I'm just a dad. You know, I'm just a guy trying to raise 2 kids, and that's all I am. I work, I pay my taxes, I feed them, and and that's who I am.
You're just a guy, and I'm just a girl.
Shut up.
No, and you're right. There is a point where you do recognize that you have to be able to take care of yourself to also be able to take care of somebody else. And the 2 things I think about with this question is, first of all, if it's a question of whether or not you can do it, or little pieces about fatherhood or parenthood that you worry, can I do this? Get some training. And training might look different to different people. If you have time to get residential training, of course, there's a lot of us across the board that would recommend that. But there's there's training that you could get. When I talk about training, independent living skills training type stuff to help you better prepare for not only taking care of yourself, but also taking care of a family, a child, a pregnant mom. It's not just the child often. It is often the pregnant mom as well. And then after the recovery, and then, Stacy was, basically exhausted and ill from the point she got pregnant with Leo until soon after Josephine's birth, because we had a stillborn in between, and Stacy had 3 difficult pregnancies. So it's taking care of the mom too. It's taking care of the child, and skills training, that independent skills training that you can maybe get from your local community rehabilitation program, or your local blindness agency, whether it be in a center or out in the field with field trainers, that's recommended. The other thing that I would also recommend would be, and Chris kind of touched on this earlier, kind of getting over that hurdle of asking people for assistance here or there, and Chris referenced transportation, but be resourceful. Get a hold of all the resources you can, including Uber, paratransit, or organizations that might give discounts on diapers, getting in contact with the YMCA and filling out scholarships to make it more affordable and more convenient for you to be able to get your child into those activities, the transportation to get your child to those places, the scholarships that might get your kids into preschool programs that are more affordable for you, more convenient for you, all those kind of resources that will contribute to making your life a little bit easier so you can focus more on being a family. That's what I would recommend.
Chris?
Well, Greg, you gave sort of a blindness professional response.
Yes.
I would build.
Can you tell he runs a training center?
Yeah. No plugs. I would build off of what Ross said and give a more philosophical answer. In that, my advice is, you have a kid, and that kid is your primary responsibility for the next 18 years. What they don't tell you about parenthood is you're going to be tired. You're just going to want to watch a baseball game in peace and quiet.
And you will not get to.
And you will not get to. You have to sacrifice for those 18 years.
Yes.
But it's like the best thing you'll ever do. And be mindful while you're, when your kid asks you to read a book or to play with them, treasure those moments, because I'm going to sound like an old person here. Everybody says, treasure those moments, they grow up so fast. And I can tell you that, it's true. They do. You know, we all talked a little bit about the day our babies were born. And so I think back to my son, who was, 7 pounds and 12 ounces, laying on my chest. And I just was like bursting with love for this kid. Today, he's about 250 pounds. And if he laid on my chest, he would crush me. So, savor those times with your kid, because they really do grow up fast. I know Ross and Bridget, Declan's 8 going on 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I know he was just born yesterday. So that's it goes by very quickly. And remember that you're raising an adult. And that's another aspect, is like, we have great relations with our kids. We're going on vacation with our kids and their spouses this summer. And you lay the foundation, love your kids, they'll love you. And Ross, you said something interesting, because you said you don't really feel like a blind dad. And one of my favorite compliments of sorts is when my kids used to have their friends over, and I could hear them saying, like, "You never told me your dad's blind." And it's because my kids don't even think of it that way. They just think I'm their dad. And and that's a wonderful thing.
It is what it is.
See, I get the advantage of listening to a baseball game in peace, because as a San Francisco Giants fan, most of their games don't start until 9 o'clock. They don't start until 9 o'clock. Now, what I don't get is to actually make it through a Giants game. I fall asleep in the 4th inning.
Right.
So we are so thankful to the blind dads in our lives for joining us tonight and for everything that they do, that we thought that Bridget and I and Chris's wife, Christine, would like to share a few things about what we think makes the dads in our lives special. So who wants to go first?
Would you like to go, Christine?
I'll go first. I think one of the reasons we had such a wonderful and successful family life, and continue to have a great family life, is because Chris has an awesome sense of humor. And we all know you have to have a good sense of humor anyway. If you're going to have a long and happy marriage, you better find things to laugh about together. And when you're a blind dad and the primary caretaker, because I work an hour away from home, and during the academic year, I have really long days. And so he would have a lot of hours. Things get messy. Things get disordered. Things are in disarray, and nothing goes as planned. And you better be able to laugh about that. So for me, that's one of the things that I appreciated about him the most, and about our life together as a family. We had a lot of laughs at ourselves, with each other, never at each other, never at each other's expense. So that's what I would say. I think and we both like beer. So, sometimes when everything calms down, a nice.
Yeah, when in doubt, grab a cold one. Yeah. It's our family motto.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'll share one thing I love about Greg is just how, and I say this all the time, but just how self-sacrificial he really is, and how much he provides and cares for our family. Greg mentioned we had a series of difficult pregnancies, including several other miscarriages that were smaller. And one of my memories that I think just really epitomize like what marriage and what you should look for in a man is that we were in Mexico, and the day before, or the day that we were going to get on our plane, I had a miscarriage in the shower, and we got stuck in this Mexican hospital. And I use the word hospital loosely. We got stuck in a Mexican clinic or something. So anyway, yeah,
overnight.
Another story. Okay, so point being, we were alone in this room. I was hooked up to this IV, and I didn't need it, so it was just making me have to go to the bathroom all the time, because it was just shooting fluids through me. And we couldn't find any nurse or any doctor or anybody there to help us. And this might sound like TMI, but every half hour, Greg was emptying my bedpan, again and again and again. And I thought, this is marriage. This is, we are in a hospital in Mexico post miscarriage, and he's emptying my bedpan. That is, to me, that's marriage, and that's parenthood. easy to talk about the fun times, and those are what will sustain you and hopefully what you'll remember. But being a parent and being a family is also about being with each other through like really difficult times that like you never even would have, considered. And when I was pregnant with Josephine, Greg would, I was confined to bed, and Greg would wake up in the morning, get Leo ready for school, take Leo to preschool, work all day, pick Leo up, take Leo to like swimming, come back home, cook dinner, deal with Leo. And then he would end up staying up late doing paperwork and get up and do it all again. And I couldn't get out of bed. And so, to me, Greg is just an example of just how self-sacrificial sometimes being a father, requires you to be. And I'm just so thankful that Greg is that.
Yes, when you're in a relationship, you see the best and worst of each other through health and sickness. So yeah, that's for sure. No, you need to be quiet. Okay. Well, Ross is not always the most expressive or verbally communicative person, but he is an incredibly hands-on dad. And he always has given me my space to explore what I need to explore, to do what I want to do, what I need to do. He mentioned earlier when I went back to school, Declan was 3 and decided to go get my master's. And, I'd be gone a couple times a year for these 10-day residencies. It was no big deal. Like, he's like, all right, you do what you need to do. You go do your thing. And, shh, honey, quiet, okay? Mama's talking. Can I talk? Okay. But I will say in the last year and a half, I've been going through a lot of kind of unexplained medical issues. And basically I have what's called chronic pain fatigue syndrome. And Ross has been really fantastic about just when he gets home, I'm done. Like I check out for the day. He does what needs to be done. If there's cleaning, shh, honey, okay. But he does cleaning, he takes care of the kids, and he doesn't do it begrudgingly. He did, because it's his job. It's what he's supposed to do. But so, like, I don't know, to me, that just means a lot to have somebody that I can trust so implicitly and who I can rely on so much. And, there's not a lot of people that I feel that way with my life, and to have that person, one of those people, be my partner, really means a lot to me.
Hey, why do you think I'm a good dad? Because what? Oh, a punch in the nose.
All right, okay.
Okay, I get a punch in the nose.
It's okay. My kids would say, because you make us cookies.
Yeah.
So it means you can take a punch,
So one final question to Greg and Ross. What is it like being married to bad blind moms? How do you get through the day? Like,
how do you put up with us?
How do you put up with us?
I focus on the children.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
They're like, we already answered that. We just said that's why they
Yeah, exactly.
We just did 90 minutes.
The kids are more fun.
The kids are less stressful than the moms.
I mean, as Bridget mentioned, I get home from work and it's like professional wrestling. I tag in. It's my turn to fight the kids, and it's a tag team match versus the double D's here, and Bridget gets to sign off, but I know that she's also worked so hard. Like, oh, I work 40 hours a week, but she's working 60 hours a week, 80 more, with these monsters. So, and she's, dealing with these health concerns. So, like, Bridget's a tough cookie. And she, I joked with the boys that she's a colonel in this army base. I'm just a sergeant. I just follow her orders. And not that, because she can handle it. That she can handle taking command and leading us. So
Declan always says daddy's the boss of us, but mom's the boss of everybody.
yeah.
Bridget, you mentioned it was something very nice you said about Ross, kind of just really supporting your projects, your goals, your interests, and giving you the space to do that. And I like to think I do that for Stacy too, whether it's via job in a completely different time zone, or little projects that she works on for the betterment of the community. She's a better mom, she's a better partner when she's given the freedom to pursue and explore those other interests and those other hobbies and
jobs.
And jobs, yes, and jobs. But for me, that's kind of what I think about is how I mean, Stacy is such a bright woman. Our kids would not be as smart or advanced as they are in education without Stacy. And I know she's able to do that because I do enjoy spending time with the kids. I want to give her the freedom to pursue those jobs, interests, hobbies, because it does make us more well-rounded as a family. So, and like I said, the education piece with the kids, that when I talk about Stacy being a mom, I think that's what I focus on the most, is just how committed she is to their education. And frankly, yes, I want my kids to get good grades. I want my kids to be smart, but I would not have the discipline to focus in on their education that she would have. I'd be like, you know what? You can do your homework tomorrow. Let's go throw the baseball against the wall. So I need to help foster that. I see that as part of my duties, is to get the most out of her. I also need to help the most.
Well, again, we want to thank all of you guys for being here tonight. And Christine, thank you for staying up so late. Chris and Christine are on the East Coast, so it's probably approaching midnight. But we really appreciate you guys being here tonight. And just thank you very much for all the wisdom that you've shared with other blind moms and dads.
You're welcome.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you, and happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yes, happy
Yeah,
Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Good night,
And stay
everybody.
tuned.
Good night, everyone.
All
And
right,
stay
we're
tuned for
done.